Welcome back to the Truth Over Comfort show. On our last video, we talked about airstrikes in Afghanistan from 2001 until the end of the war, with the cherry on top of a bomb cake, basically, that killed 10 civilians and 7 children, which was basically a perfect illustration of the common theme of the US coalition occupation of killing civilians, children, bombing weddings, a hospital, and more. You can do custom searches on Google where you do like 2001 to 2000, whatever. And it's just article after article. There was a UN article from about stats from 2015 to 2020 about how 40% of airstrike civilian deaths are children, which is obviously horrible. And this was just a common theme, let alone rogue units or faulty intelligence and killing raids, and all the damage to the country economically, physically, and environmentally, let alone outside of Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Iraq, Somalia, Pakistan, Yemen, or before 2001, because this stuff went on before the war on terror. Lots of things, including things like Vietnam being famous, but Laos, which was bombed more than World War Two. In World War Two, Obama actually did like an apology. I think he did a speech there where he actually talks about that as a stat, just because they didn't want to go communist, which leads us quite well into what we're doing today. It's always, oh, we're here for the good of the people, so we're going to bomb you more than we did the Nazis in World War Two because we don't want you to go communist because we care about you, and that's going to be horrible. But apparently, constant bombing for 13 years, something like that. That's daisies. That's meadows. Just this is the life. This is the dream. Imagine what communism would be like. Whew. I mean, getting bombed almost every day, but those communists, they must be dastardly. That's me, the devil himself. But if I look like I'm talking a bit like a retard or I've had a mini stroke on the side of my face, it's because I've got a bit of an ulcer there. But I feel a bit like Peter Griffin when he gets a stroke in Family Guy like that. But we hear a lot about government incompetence. Stuff doesn't get better for the people because there's infighting in the party, and then infighting Conservative, Labour, Democrat, Republican, and everything around it. And there's just too much polarization. But when there's something they want to get through, it goes through like that. Click of a fingers. Perfect example is lockdowns. So governments all around the world, different cultures, different politics against different parties, just snap of fingers, close schools, businesses, all these laws are put in place. You just couldn't open your business. You couldn't even go for a haircut. All this stuff that we just took for granted and as normal liberty in the world, were just gone. A snap of fingers from policy that went through from political parties. Where was the incompetence there? They got that through effectively. I'm not here to debate lockdown. Was not a fan, but as in actually getting up, drawing up policies and getting it done, they got it done effectively as they could. The schools were closed, the business was closed. You couldn't walk on the street. You could go, do certain things. People were fined. People were arrested. Another example, of course, be up to now, is the Russian sanctions. So there's different parties who, the left is going to be more, anti-war. Sanctions, just a pack of sanctions all around the EU, the UK, different parties, arms just being sold for fun like it's toys. Again, where was the incompetence? When they want to get stuff through, it happens. And America is the shining light example of that, where, America's like one of the most polarized countries in the world. Like, it makes other countries look like nothing. You look at there and people just think, what is going on in that strange land? Like the gender, like we have obviously a bit of a woke culture in the UK, but the US takes it to a whole new level. The Trump thing just was crazy watching that, just how polarized people are. All the political parties, many be different sides, they're same side of the same coin, sorry. And when there's anything, to do with military war, they don't like it's not, they didn't have much trouble getting the Iraq war through with the rest of the world themselves. No, other wars, with the Gulf War. every war gets through. Has the US ever lost in a vote to get it through? I'm not sure. In the UK, I'm pretty sure the first time military activities was rejected was David Cameron when they wanted airstrike in Syria, and it was actually voted down. Because they actually saw what happened in the other countries, Libya, a couple of years earlier. Yeah, a couple of years earlier. But eventually they got them through another time, and they were still embedded, I think, with Canada or US. So, and obviously, yeah, they eventually got it through. But this stuff rarely gets rejected. There's no incompetence about it. These people, when they want to get some military stuff done, they get it done. I mean, in America, there was two congressmen from each side of the Senate, or two senators, sorry, trying to get the sanctions bill through before Russia had even invaded. There's no incompetence there. They had a whole, you know, lobbying effort in the Senate with these sanctions on what they're going to do for why before it even happened. At that time, many people, including myself, didn't think well Russia was going to invade. Whether they knew or not, doesn't matter. They had a policy ready to go, and bang, they got it. There's no incompetence, both sides of the hall. So I find it kind of hard to believe. I'm sure there is obviously disagreements and bureaucracy, but when they want to get it done, they get it done. You know, if they wanted to sort out some of the problems that we're going to get to, they could. Like obviously the petrol prices. If they really cared enough, they would. They could do more. I think they probably choose not to. But this was floating around on Twitter. This is May 19th, 2022, and so great about this is there was two Hill articles, one this and one the other, both on the exact same day. So the first one, Senate passes 40 billion Ukraine aid package. The other one, Senate blocks 48 billion aid package for restaurants, other small businesses. So after lockdowns destroying the economy, which we are in obviously a recession now, and the economy is in the shit around the world, inflation, high prices as well, obviously because of some of the stuff going on now, and people's business being destroyed, the middle class, you know, just normal business owners who, at least in the UK, we had furlough in most countries. I'm pretty sure in the US they didn't. I want to check that. I'm sure I looked up before, but I don't think they did. And even so, they was forced upon them to obviously close their business, and now there's this package to get it, and it's a no. So Senate passes 40 billion to Ukraine. So that's an insane amount of money. Remember again, the economy not in a great place. Where they have this money from? The US is in like trillions and trillions of pounds of debt. The UK, I think, is in like two. The US is, I want to say, 25 to 30. All these wars are going to rack up their debt too. But yeah, they have 40 billion to spare, just pulls out their ass for Ukraine. And people are, oh, no, no, no. This is an aid package. Obviously, there's some military stuff to it and arming them. But this is because they care about the Ukrainians. Right. So they did this because they care about the Ukrainians. But then how does this sit? It's the same day, their own citizens, who, again, there was no referendum for lockdown. They had no choice but to close down their business, lose money, lose their livelihood, which actually affects their family and their living situation because they're not rich. If they cared about the Ukrainians, why don't they care about their own people? You know what it is? The US is kind of like that person who puts everyone else's interests ahead of themselves. They're always trying to help others, and that no one gives them the time of the day. They never look themselves. How can I help myself? They're always looking around. I know our citizens were, we did a lockdown, kind of destroyed their businesses, but look what's going on in this other country, thousands of miles away. They need us. Superman to the rescue. Well, what about your own citizens? No, 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 don't worry, don't worry. We're going to use taxpayer money to help these other citizens, and then we're maybe think about helping them out. It's like your house is falling apart. There's homeless people sleeping everywhere, and you're going around like help. Here's some flash to help clean up. Here's some mops. Here's some money for some aid to get some cleaners. And people are like, well, what about your house? It's falling apart. You're like, nah, it's all right. We'll sort that first. Sort that first. You got to sort your own house first. Surely, 40 billion is an incredible amount of money, and the fact this happened both obviously on the same day means one isn't going to make it. It's not realistic to pass both. That's an insane amount of money. Could you argue it's on purpose? Could this have been passed another time? Maybe, probably not. But the fact it was like the same time period gave it no chance. And this screams at you. This is what it means. You can't say it cares. They care about the Ukrainian people when here's one. It's either 40 billion for for Ukraine, for the people, for the military, not for the military, for this proxy war, or 48 billion for our own citizens. And again, this is their own money, 48 billion of their own money. Not it's not like some other money, it's their money that they paid in the first place to help the restaurants and businesses that we thought, you either agreed with lockdowns, you should think that these people need help because, we decided to do this for the greater good and health. So we should repay them, or you either disagreed with it. So you definitely think that. Either way, most people will be like, I think we should help our own citizens. But they're like, nah, we're going to give it to the military industrial complex. We're going to give it to Lockheed Martin so we can, they can send some arms to Ukraine for this proxy war. So we can give the Soviets their Vietnam, just like in Afghanistan in the 80s. So this is in 1979, just as the Soviets invade. And this is what Zbigniew Brzezinski saying to Carter. So they're saying it could become a Soviet Vietnam. They're saying it's probably not that likely, but they was hungry to give them their Vietnam. Again, this is a... Let me just get it up. Wilson. So this is Charlie Wilson, and there's a film about Charlie Wilson's war. Is about the finding the Mujahideen in the 80s against the Soviets. There were 58,000 dead in Vietnam, and we owe the Russians one. And you can quote me on that. I had a slight obsession with it because of Vietnam. I thought the Soviets ought to get a dose of it. I've been in the opinion this money is better spent to hurt our advisory than other money in the DoD budget. So this is talking about giving the Soviets their Vietnam, meaning a long military quagmire that uh, destroys the morale of the people, the army, the government, bankrupts them, and basically they hang their head up in shame and leave, as obviously the US did in Vietnam. That's what they did to the Soviets in the 80s. Whether obviously it was just so that's what it was the CIA's biggest covert operation till then, gave billions of aid to give them their Vietnam to sink them. That's what it's about. It's about the proxy war. You could be like, oh no, people are going to be like, oh, you need to help the Ukrainians. They need our help. Sure. So why isn't our 40 billion package for like food? Just getting the people food, clothing, money to, have like shelter for people, their houses have been bombed, their towns have been destroyed. Why is it military stuff? How much of it is military? So the Senate voted 86-11 Thursday to approve a 40 billion aid package that would replenish US stockpiles of weapons transferred to Ukraine and provide billions of dollars to help the Ukrainian government continue operating and for humanitarian assistance. So if this was about humanitarianism, when they say, oh, there's not enough grain going to Ukraine or coming out, well, they got 40 billion to spend on these planes that can bring arms in. Why can't these same planes bring food in and, whatever else they need to survive, on a human level? Water, food, clothing, shelter. No. No, we ain't got planes for that. We do have planes for weapons. We do have planes to, at the end of the day, Russia, I think most people are going to agree, Russia has a massive army, much bigger. It's going to win eventually. And if you're like all for sending these arms because you want to help Ukraine have a chance of winning, at the end of the day, you're prolonging the war. So there's going to be more human suffering on both sides. More people are going to die. More towns are destroyed. More rebuilding. How's it actually going to help them? Sending weapons is just going to, if they had a legit chance of winning, there's going to be people arguing for it then. But Russia's a much stronger army than Ukraine, and again, like it's all in Ukraine. It's not even like Russia's getting bombed left, right, and center. It's all in Ukraine. So if they really cared about the people, they'd send them food and everything I said before. I won't go over it again. But no, they didn't want to help out the restaurants, business owners of their own country who pay taxes for them to bribe, and that with massive military budget that then pays these armed corporations to make these vehicles and stuff to then send to countries like that. Nah, screw them. Same with the UK. The US is on a much bigger scale. Like they are just everything like the UK has, like the US is sort of like exaggerated, like the woke thing, the private prison system. We have one. It's like couple hundred million industry, billions in the US. Pharmaceutical industry, massive in America. Homeless problem, much bigger. Like they're just an exaggeration of us really and some of the stuff. But cost of living crisis, petrol price out of control, which means, you know, everything from the ice cream truck to bringing supplies to shops is more expensive. So food has to be more expensive and people living, on the line, that's everything. Electric, gas, heating, all going to go up. Just after a massive push for, all about health, that's why we need to protect the elderly because of COVID and stuff like that. Well, everyone knows in winter, like the elderly are vulnerable because it's so cold. What if they can't afford it? What if they can't afford it? But don't worry. Those Ukrainians, though, they're military. They will be replenished. We will give them another billion. Don't worry. We will bring the UK's total military and economic support to 3.8 billion this year. That's what we really care about. We want to hit that 4 billion mark. All military support, not humanitarian, military support to Ukraine. Just keep that war going. Try and kill a few more Russians. The thing is, again with Afghanistan, that we now know the whole way through, they knew they weren't going to win. It was again a military quagmire. Well, they probably know like how many more years is this going to add? If we didn't get involved, it would have been over probably by now. Possibly still going. Like, how much more is this going to give him? Like 2 more years? It's not going to give him a 20 years Afghanistan or even like a Vietnam sort of thing. It's not going to last that long. That is a guess. I could be wrong. If I am, that's fair enough. But that's obviously pretty destructive at the same time. So like we're sending all this money that we could give to our own citizens. Richie Sunak does the old, oh, we're giving £200 loan for the bit loan for the bills. Oh, screw you, Shelby. We're going to make you put it down 5p or the fuel duty 5p. Didn't even last 24 hours. If they really want to do something about it, they would just like lockdown, military aid, and sanctions come out like that. They really cared. They did, but their priorities lie in sinking Russia, giving them their Vietnam, and continuing this proxy war. I'm not even going to go too much detail about. I could maybe another video I'll do up all the officials talking about it as a proxy war. It's not like to defend democracy and stuff like that, and European value, Western values, or anything, or attack on democracy. I want to keep it as a short video, so I think I'll leave it. I mean, this is just so self-explanatory. You can't argue with this. Same day, same newspaper. The US chose the military industrial complex and the proxy war in versus Russia instead of the people they screwed over in the first place. At least we gave furlough, and obviously we gave a lot less money. They have a much bigger economy, but I mean, we're giving almost 4 billion, and our military budget's like 65 or something, so maybe a bit less. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Like we act like, oh, just 1 more billion. The US gave 40. It's a B, not an M. 1 billion is an insane amount of money. Imagine how much they could do for your own people. Think about 40 billion if they, they're like, the homeless problem is getting us out of control. Is like, where do you even start? I'm sure 40 billion could do good. I'm not saying it should go all to the homeless people, but again, it just shows they're willing to pull this money out of their ass after they're going into recession just to keep this going, but they don't care about those own people. But I'm not going to keep going around in circles because I've made the point. I think you can see it. Whether you disagree to help the Ukrainians, fair enough. But as I said, food, water, Bill Hicks had a joke, instead of sending all these arms to these countries who didn't have it before, can't we use that same technology to shoot over a banana, Obviously not, because it's not about, that's not feasible. We don't want it. We don't want to do it. We want to use our fees for this stuff. But I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening to the Truth Over Comfort show, and I'll see you soon.